What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Invictorum podcast. My name is Jamie, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about the cost of being yourself. So whenever you're very nervous for something, whether it's a first date, an interview, an audition, or just meeting a large group of people for the first time and you want to make a good impression, there's a sage old piece of advice: when in doubt, just be yourself. And this piece of advice can actually be kind of confusing because what does it exactly mean? Does it mean to imply, for example, that you're not being yourself most of the time, and then suddenly for this very intense and nerve-wracking situation, you suddenly become who you secretly are and show your true colors? What being yourself means to me is being confident in who you are as a person and not sacrificing your values and what you believe in order to just fit into a group. Now I'm going to say that again because it's incredibly important. Being yourself means being confident in who you are and not sacrificing your values and your beliefs just to fit in. So where's the cost involved in all this? Well, the cost is that when you are actually being your 100% authentic self, and you're not pretending to be anything else, and you're not pretending to have these values you don't really have, there's actually a pretty good chance that you're probably going to get rejected earlier on. If you're going on a job interview and you don't have the skills required, but you're not pretending to have them, and they're looking for those skills, you're probably not going to get the job. If you're going on a first date and then the person says, I'm looking for someone that is a vegan, and you love meat, you're probably not going to get a second date with that person. And that's actually a very good thing because it's kind of weeding out people that you would not align with and people that would force you to sacrifice who you are as a person very early on. But at the same time, it kind of sucks. And that's why it kind of encourages us to become a character who has these different values that would be a better fit for what these other people are looking for. Now, to explain to that why, even though that cost of being yourself is very high at the beginning, why you should always choose to be yourself, even though being a different character would have you a better chance of having success, I'm going to use 3 different scenarios to kind of explain this idea. So the first one is one that we could probably all relate to. You're back in high school, and there's a very popular group of kids that you really want to hang out with. They get to go to all the best parties, they get to go and hang out at the best spot at the football games, and ultimately they have a reputation that you really want to associate yourself with. Now you have 2 options. You can either go to this group of people and just be your 100% authentic self, which probably most likely wouldn't work, otherwise you'd probably be friends with these people already, or you can change yourself, change certain aspects of what you believe in, your character, and your overall appearance to become a better fit for this group and ultimately not get rejected. So the first scenario where you're being yourself, like I mentioned, you'll probably go to this group of people. They'll kind of see, oh, this guy doesn't really fit in, or this girl doesn't really fit in with us. Let's kind of phase them out and not hang out with them. And that's a very painful experience to have right off the bat, but it's actually very good because in the long run, you're not having to sacrifice anything to fit in with this group of people. Now, let's say you become a character. You start to change the way you dress. You change the way you talk. You start to value different things. And you ultimately change who you are as a person and create a character for yourself that would be a better fit for this group. Now, let's say that it goes really well, and this group of kids that's very popular, they like this character that you've created, and they want to hang out with you because they think that you're going to be a good fit for their group. Now, you hang out with them for a while, and over time, you're starting to realize that a lot of the things that this group does really rubs you the wrong way. And what ends up happening is that your actions and your thoughts become incongruent with one another. Remember, it's very easy to change your actions. We can all play actors. We can all do certain things that we normally would never ever do. You go to a party and you act out and you act very outgoing, but really you're a very introverted person and you're very shy, but you're able to create a character for yourself that can act differently. Your thoughts, on the other hand, thoughts are very slow to change. So even though you're acting as this new person that fits into this popular group of kids, you're still the same person on the inside, you're still having the same thought patterns, and this incongruency can really start to tear you apart inside. One example is that eventually you'll wake up, look at yourself in the mirror, and not really recognize who you are, or you end up becoming something that you vowed that you would never ever become. Another scenario that could happen is that you created this character to fit into this group of people, but you're still being yourself around people that know you well. You're being yourself around your family, you're being yourself around older friends, and this can cause even more incongruencies if the 2 groups ever meet each other and you're stuck in the middle. perfect example is this, is that you go to a party and you're hanging out with the popular kids and you're being your character and you see an older friend and they see you for who you've kind of become, and you end up either getting called out by them and be like, you're not the same person I became friends with, and you could possibly lose that friendship, or you can kind of flip back to being yourself, and then this new group of people is going to see that and they're going to be like, well, this isn't the guy that we kind of let in. This is a new person. I don't really think that he's cool enough to hang with us. Another thing that can happen is eventually you're in this group and you're playing this character and you're like, well, let me go back to being myself and see if they will still accept me for that. If it's a cool group of kids and they're honestly good people and they're open-minded, sure, that would probably work. But at the same time, it would rub them the wrong way that you pretended to be someone else to get into their group. Another scenario is that they'll realize who you truly are, realize that your values do not align with theirs, and then ultimately reject you. And this goes back to what I was saying. It's better to get rejected outright, right off the bat, by just being yourself than to go through all this time and then go through all this horrible, maybe heartbreak from losing friends and then ultimately getting rejected down the line and not really recognizing yourself. It's always better to be yourself. Now, a second scenario is that you're going to an interview and you read the job description and you realize that you actually don't really have the skills that they're looking for. So once again, you have two options. You can be yourself, present yourself confidently who you are, even though you're lacking those skills, or you can create a character that kind of pretends to have those skills and knows just enough about those areas that they can pass on as being a good fit for this job. So in the first scenario, you're being yourself, you're not a good fit, you get rejected by the company. And it sucks, no one likes to be rejected, but it means that you can move on and look for a job that would better align with who you are and align with your skills. Ultimately, a better situation for you. Or you can create a character once again that has these fake skills and get hired for the job because you've passed through the interview. That's not that difficult. And then you finally actually get on the job and you're doing the job that you've been hired for. And then you kind of get exposed for who you really are because you don't have the skills and you can't really do what you need to be doing, what you've been hired to do. Now, you might be able to last there for a few months, but eventually they're going to figure it out that you're not the person who you said you were, and you're going to get fired. And at that time, you might have moved, you might have packed up all of your things, you might have spent a lot of money to transfer to wherever you needed to work for this job. You bought a new apartment that was close to the company site, and now you've kind of spent a lot of money ultimately just to get rejected. So this is another perfect scenario where you should have just been yourself right off the bat. The final scenario is you're going on a date with someone. And now that we have apps like Tinder and Bumble and all those other ones, you can kind of read up a lot about a person and they have it in their bio and you can find out what kind of a person they're looking for. And you have the option to once again become a character who would be a better fit or a better option for that person, someone that they're more likely to accept rather than reject. So let's go back to the vegan example. You see this girl or a guy and you see that they really value animal rights and that they're a vegan and that they're looking specifically for someone that is a vegan too. And you think to yourself, damn, this person is really attractive. I think they'd be a perfect match for me despite the veganism. So you go out on a first date, and this is one of the first things that kind of come up because you have to go out for dinner, and you end up choosing a vegan restaurant. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but you're portraying yourself as a person who is a vegan. Now, this goes back to the incongruency. Your actions are one of a vegan. You're eating vegan food. You're talking about animal rights. But your thoughts are saying, I wish I was having a steak right now, or I really miss drinking milk, or I miss having eggs. Now, this can go on for a long period of time. And you know what? Becoming a vegan might actually not be a bad thing. And this is kind of where I'm getting into a weird tangent here, where it's actually okay to not always 100% be very stubborn with who you are and be open to change and be open to have values and aspects about yourself change over time as you mature as a person. What's not okay is presenting yourself like this early on and then try to fake it until you make it, as they say. Because eventually that person's going to find out that you weren't the person that they originally thought who you are, and that could just mean another rejection later on. Now, a good way to approach this is to go on the date with the girl or the guy and say to them, listen, I'm not a vegan, but I've been interested in the animal rights movement and I just don't really know how to get started. And if I was to date you, I would be open to becoming a vegan. Now, this is a much better route because even though the girl might be, you know what, I'm not really interested in trying to convert someone. I'm looking for someone that's already a very passionate vegan, and you get rejected. And you know what, that's actually probably a better scenario because you probably would not want to spend your time with a person that's very closed-minded like that. Or they can kind of realize that this is an opportunity for them to convert someone and teach them a lot about veganism. And then you can still have those second dates and third dates and fourth and maybe even a relationship eventually. So this always goes back to you should always 100% congruently be yourself, but it is okay to seek out opportunities where you can change aspects about yourself. It is okay to realize that there's a group of people out there or a job or whatever that has values that you want to obtain for yourself, and the best way to get those values is to become part of that group. But if you present yourself to this group of people or this singular person as something that you're not, it creates a lot of distrust as well as I mentioned, again, incongruency of who you are as a person. So I want to leave you guys with one final note. You should always be humble and always be completely honest with who you are as a person. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you should be able to see yourself looking back without any facades or masks being worn to hide who you truly are. And if someone or a group of people out there cannot accept you for who you are as a person when you present yourself to them, they have absolutely no business being in your life, and getting rid of them as soon as possible or getting rejected by them is the absolute best thing that can happen to you because there's no benefit being someone else just to fit into their mold and their idea of things. All right, that's a short episode, but thanks guys, and tune in for next week for the next one.